How you doing?
Good, man.
Good.
See how this weather's holding up on us, so.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try to get this game started a little bit earlier.
Okay. Good for you then?
So, hopefully we can get started. They're doing like a short halftime for the JV, and they'll get us out there hopefully 6:30-ish.
Oh, really?
Every problem in this country can be linked back to poor education. Racism, an increasing wage gap, and the lack of understanding for our environment. The list goes on. By undervaluing our educators, we are undervaluing our future. We live in times where in 30 of the 50 states, teachers' salaries have not kept pace with the cost of living, and specifically in Michigan, teacher pay has dropped each of the last 5 years. You are better off driving a bus than being a teacher. For the Waverly teachers, around 40 to 50 of their 173 teachers work some kind of second job. This is Kevin Kasel, an 8th grade history teacher who coaches men's and women's soccer to help compensate some of his income.
How many years ago is this that you said you had to?
Oh, this fall.
This fall you just got the job.
Yeah.
And it kind of, how long you been teaching for?
So 5 years at Waverly, 6 years total.
Okay, and why did it hit you all of a sudden that you needed this second job?
Just with our contract issues going on right now, making less money than I made 3 years ago.
Really?
So,
Wait, so you had a contract, those last how long usually?
Let's see, our last couple of contracts have been around 3 years.
And so that one is up.
So I got hired into one. They froze our contract. We got the new one for the next 3 years. And then, Kels, let's go! And then,
Kevin takes a second here to coach,
let's see what they're doing here, sorry.
No, you're good.
Making sure they're doing everything.
but the idea that their contracts were frozen to help the district and now they won't help them back is mind-boggling. Especially when you're on a step system where based on your years in education, your pay is supposed to be a certain amount.
And so yeah, usually, I mean, I think they've been around roughly, I think our teacher contracts are 3 to 5 years usually.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, our problem with is we finished off so 2 contracts ago, they froze it the last year. Totally froze it. No steps, none of that stuff.
What does freezing it mean?
You're not getting any pay increase.
Okay.
And so that was when Michigan was really going through some hard times financially. You know, it was 2010, 2011 when the state was having a lot of problems, and so the teachers said, all right, well, we'll make this new contract benefit, you know, we know what's going on, we know about the hard times, so we decided to take only one full step for 3 years. So really 2 half steps was all we got. And so those 2 half steps, and then the last year, no step. And so that was 2 years ago, and this full year we've been frozen with the old contract and not a step at all. So and then our insurance cost has gone up because of the no contract. So that's kind of where I'm at.
How does the insurance go? I don't know the logistics of that, but.
So we have, with our insurance, the district pushed this insurance policy with our HSA health savings account, and the district used to pay that.
Yeah.
So currently they're not paying it due to our contract issue. So a lot of people are out $2,400 that they didn't pay, so that's their deductible. And so with the HSA, you know, you just use your credit card and pay that off. But now without that, we have some people that are, you know, emergencies and they got to pay the full deductible, and they're never going to get that back. So, and I got to pay double our insurance costs as well right now. So that's $2,400 deductible for the full family, and then it's around $850 a month just to have the insurance.
So $2,400 on top of $850 a month.
Yep.
And this is on you're about 40 grand.
42 is what I make.
Yeah.
Now,
So,
if I didn't have my master's degree, I'd make under 40. I'd make 39.
how's that not against the law?
Not only is it not against the law, it is the law, allowing the board to do this. Public Act 54 is a union buster that until there is a newly ratified collective bargaining agreement, steps are frozen, insurance costs are passed on to the employees, and eliminates retroactive pay after a new CBA is in place. I'll let Jeannie Larson, who does public relations for Waverly Education Association, explain more.
And then in our previous contract, we went with a high deductible insurance plan to help the district out because it was cheaper for them. But they gave us back most of that deductible. I have a single insurance, and so I would pay $200 toward my deductible. The district paid $1,200 toward my deductible. At the beginning of this year, within weeks of when they were supposed to deposit that money in January, they said, nope, we're not going to do that.
Why not?
They believe that because of the legislation that went through, that the Michigan legislature said that if you are not under contract, the district is not allowed to pay toward your insurance. However, we believe, and it's part of our contract, that that was compensation. It was not part of the insurance package, it was part of compensation. So we knew that when we didn't sign our contract, we would be paying extra toward our insurance, and families are paying an extra $800 and some per month toward their insurance. And then on top of that, for families to have to come up with that extra $2,400, I mean, before they could get health care, that's crazy.
So there's really very little incentive for them to have a contract because every day we don't have one, there's thousands of dollars being saved. So, a lot of it has to do with the new laws that have been passed in this state particularly that have made it for unions, not just teacher unions, but any unions, to take away their power and to make it to where there's really not a whole lot of benefit to having a union because there's very little we can do as a group.
It's an uphill battle for the ones that control our future to just get fair wages, benefits, and working conditions. An emotional Kaisel comments at the end of a 15-hour workday.
I recently just did this too, I cashed in my life insurance policy that my father started for me when I was 1 year old. I had to cash it because I had no money. So I had to take the cash value of it. Because my bills are over exceeding my income. Student loans, I'd pay for school on my own. Student loans are ridiculous. I'm looking at $600 to $700 a month in student loan payments. So, my mortgage, which is actually less than rent. So that's super helpful, but mortgage, car payment, electricity. I had to get rid of my cable because I couldn't afford it anymore. So that was one thing I got rid of. I got everything else, it just adds up. It's not like I'm living a lavish lifestyle. I'm going out to, parties and things like that. I go home, go to bed. I'm a single guy, and my parents are like, my mom, why don't you go on dates? I can't afford to go on dates. I can't afford to take girls out. I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything because I don't have any money.
How does the district not see this? How do you not come to them and say, I'm overdrafting?
I did. I spoke at a board meeting in December. That was on Facebook that had over 7,000 views.
Yeah.
They just don't care. They really don't care.
Here's some footage taken by another teacher of that meeting.
I'm here to tell you a little bit about myself, one of your young, committed, and valued teachers in this district. I've been teaching at Waverly Middle School since January of 2012, and I'm currently at step 1.5 with a master's degree. When I took this job, I committed myself to long evening hours and even coming to work on weekends because I want my students to succeed. I was and still am fully committed to my students' academic success. I didn't become a teacher to make a lot of money or live a lavish lifestyle. The relationships I create with my students are worth more money than I could ever make. Many students come back to visit me regularly because students can tell when a teacher truly cares. I'm also currently the middle school student council advisor, and this past year I became even more committed to Waverly when I took on the coaching position of both the boys and girls varsity soccer programs. However, I was lucky to get hired as a coach. I'm lucky because I had to secure a second job. Due to working without a contract and living on a single income, I am surviving paycheck to paycheck and struggling financially. When you add up my monthly bills, student loans, mortgage, car payment, my monthly payments now exceed my income. I've had to ask my family to borrow money to pay my bills and buy my groceries. I make less money today than I did last year. My salary has been frozen and decreased. A teacher should not have to secure a second job in order to make ends meet. Teaching used to be considered a valued profession where teachers were respected. A teaching professional should not have to stress from overdrafts from the bank account, which has happened to me on multiple occasions, or having to make decisions on what bill to pay or what bill will have to wait, a decision I make monthly, or choosing to see the doctor when paying the deductibles is not practical. How am I supposed to invest more of myself into teaching each day when I'm worried about so many outside factors? How can I stay committed to Waverly? I do not feel the valued profession that I chose to devote my life's work to. Because of these issues, I may become one of the 30 to 50% of young teachers leaving the profession within 5 years. I would need to leave to find a job where I'm valued as a quality employee. I can't afford being frozen on steps and increased insurance costs. Why do I, as a teacher, have to struggle to survive while administrators in this district are receiving pay increases?
I don't know what Waverly's thinking. Some of us are really going to have to think about leaving this district if we can't get a contract. I've thought about it, I've looked. I can't lie and say I haven't because got to see what's out there, but it's tough. They want this school to be the best that it is, and you're not going to be like that if you can't attract good teachers, because who's going to want to work here if you can't make any money? Honestly, I can't even survive to be here.
Let's take a look at a past board meeting filmed by a teacher at how the district responds to this.
If you eat into your fund balance too much, you're going to pay increased costs for borrowing money, and you're not going to have that money there to retain jobs and retain pay the next time you take a hit.
Won't be able to retain jobs? That's happening now. And here's a nice tidbit. The district has saved over $1 million this year by not paying benefits and steps to the teachers. Here's Dan Thaler. He works for the Office of Survey Research at MSU, where he analyzes data and produces the results in written reports for various clients. He started a website using only data to display the truth behind what the board is claiming.
I hear a lot about the kind of the rainy day fund. It's much larger, and I guess what are the district's spending priorities, or what kind of public data did you find behind that?
Yeah, so the individual budget of the district is not necessarily public information. Okay. But what I was able to look at is you can look at the total amount of revenue that the district gets per student and how much per student they're spending on instruction. And that most of that instruction category is teacher salaries. It also includes things like textbooks and other things that are necessary for the daily instruction of the student. What I found was that among the 12 schools in Ingham ISD, Waverly schools are spending 10th out of 12. They have the third lowest percentage spent on instruction compared to the other schools in the Ingham ISD. And what that might indicate to me is that they are prioritizing teacher salaries and student instruction lower than almost everybody else in the area.
But it's not even entirely about the money, nor respect, although that does play a big role too. But they don't want larger class sizes.
And so the lawyer made a comment at one board meeting about how, teachers would like extra students in their room so they can get paid more. And it's like, really? Have you ever been in a classroom? Do you know what goes on in these rooms to sit there and tell me that because I want more money that I'll take an extra couple students? I don't have any more room in my classroom for more students.
So when the district says the teachers are asking for too much, they dug themselves into a hole.
Teachers, I have to imagine that there are teachers out there that would, be willing to take on an extra student in order to take home an extra $2,700, especially if you're a newer teacher, lower on the pay scales.
You get paid more when you have bigger classes, yet they don't want those.
We know historically that districts have done is that they have packed new teachers' classrooms full of, up to 31, up to 32. So those are the teachers, to be honest with you. Yes, financially, they're probably most in need of that money, but the reality is they are still learning about pedagogy, they're still learning about classroom management, they're still learning about, so they're the ones that are least equipped to take on additional students. So we should be, again, if you ask me what I would do if I was across the street, we should be making sure that those 3 to 5 to 7 year teachers, that they have 25 or under, that they have the opportunity to kind of hone their skills in classroom management, things like that. Because the reality is it's to the detriment of the student.
The one who does want money, though, is Superintendent Terry Urquhart. He saw his total compensation reach $275,000 due to a raise while teachers saw their pay freeze. This is good enough to make him second in Ingham ISD in terms of how much his pay is prioritized above teacher compensation, even though his district ranks towards the bottom in test scores, something that seems to matter a lot to him.
Right now, they're trying to tie your pay, like if there is a pay raise, then your pay raise will be tied to student evaluations. And for example, students at each grade level may take a standardized state test, which every year feels like they're changing the test. The goals are vague. The material that the curriculum is going to cover is often a very vague set of topics. And as we all know, a student can have one bad day, and a lot of those tests are given once. And if I teach, say, 9th grade algebra, and they give this test halfway through the year, and they're going to tie my pay to these students who I've only seen for a few months, there's a lot of issues with that, obviously. It's not about how you've worked or how much time or effort or work you've put into your job. It's about this random set of students. And in fairness, if I teach an AP calculus course or an honors course, I'm going to get my raise because my students are going to do very well on the test. But if I was to teach an algebra course with failing students who have failed math 3-4 years in a row, it's going to be really hard to get to the standards they would be asking for.
This is all exacerbated, all of this, the lack of insurance, pay freezes, a large percentage of Waverly teachers with second jobs, wanting to increase class sizes, anti-union laws, the idea that the board won't dip too far into the fund balance, the current and potential loss of the teachers, the superintendent taking a raise while teachers suffer, wanting pay to be based on test scores, by the fact that this is a low-income neighborhood, and that the board just does not care or make an effort to get to know the teachers and their students.
So these students who all they want to do is, where am I going to sleep tonight? What am I going to eat for lunch today?
That's a real problem some of these people face, where they're going to sleep tonight.
Yep.
You have students that don't know where they're
Yep.
going to
I
sleep.
have homeless students.
I'm teaching an 8th grade group, but we have a number of students that, they have probation officers. We have a number of students that are hopping from home to home. We have some students that, have articulated the fact that they're living in a car or living out of a car. We have a number of students that are living at St. Vincent's charitable organizations. So we have a number of individuals that have some pretty that are living through some pretty dire circumstances. And so when they come to school, and that's what people need to understand, is that when they come to school, number one, it might be they're only 7 to 8 hours of normalcy that day. Number two, sometimes if the adults that are in that building are the only adults that are providing appropriate supports, setting boundaries and parameters, a sense of security. Sometimes, obviously it's the only meal they get when they come to school, and they're eating that breakfast or they're eating that lunch. And that's one of the problems, I think, when you have officials, when you have decision makers that are out of touch, and they're operating from the perspective of, okay, this is what Waverly is, when really that's what Waverly was 15, 20 years ago. This is a different district. This is a district with a different need. And the reality is we need to do everything we possibly can to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to attract and retain the absolute best frontline workers that are supporting these very, very vulnerable kids.
But there are children, high school kids that I've called my second and third child, and my wife and I have basically helped in so many situations and doing things that probably we shouldn't be doing just to help them out. Helping them get jobs, helping them to get to places, helping them get legal advice when, there's issues in their families that they need to take care of. And there are some kids who school was the last thing they were going to worry about, and a test that doesn't count for anything doesn't mean anything to them.
I kept hearing more and more horror stories like the ones you just heard throughout this project, and I couldn't grasp that it seemed to be brushed off by the district, and test scores are all that matter. So I went to talk to Superintendent Urquhart about why these negotiations were so difficult when ultimately it is these kids that suffer the most. That's me, by the way. I shot this entire film one-handed. I had surgery right before the project was supposed to start. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, always keep your camera running in a public place.
Right? Hi there.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm here to see Superintendent Urquhart.
Okay. Does he know you're coming?
He does not.
I think he has a meeting. So what is your name?
My name is Zach Barnes. I'm with Michigan State.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi there.
I got a real dumb question for you. Who
Yeah.
told you could come in and video a board meeting?
It's a public meeting.
Public meeting, but we thought you were from, don't even turn that on.
Okay.
That would be the stupidest thing to do, okay?
Yeah.
We had no idea who you were. If you're gonna do that, you should ask for permission.
Why? It's a public meeting.
Well, ask for permission next time. All public meetings you can't take pictures of.
Says who?
Me,
You?
yeah.
What do you
I'm
mean?
the superintendent.
Okay, but it's public meeting. Anyone can go and record it.
Anyone can go, not record it.
Where does it say you can't record it?
Where does it say you can?
Uh,
Okay, so conversation's over. Thanks for stopping in.
Is there gonna be a time we can speak sometime?
Absolutely not. With
I-
that kind of attitude, I'm trying to help you with a class you got at Michigan State?
Yeah.
No way. See
What?
you later.
Why not? I just want to talk to you.
Goodbye.
All right. Sorry, sir.
And who says I can film? Check the Michigan Public Meetings Act. It should be common sense that when you are dealing with kids who may not have a bed or lunch, that school may not be the first priority, especially a test that doesn't count for a grade. But they insist pay should be based off student achievement.
So the board is saying that teachers are kind of underperforming and pointing to the fact that test scores are lower overall, right? But they're not taking into consideration the fact that students in Waverly schools are dealing with challenges that students in Okemos and East Lansing and all these other schools that are performing better are having to deal with. There's a different set of students, and when it comes to test scores, it's very well documented that test scores do a much better job of measuring socioeconomic status and poverty than they do of measuring student achievement on its own. And so Waverly is a high poverty district. It's simply unfair to compare the raw level of achievement for those students to students in wealthier suburbs who are not facing the same kind of challenges. Test scores are very highly correlated to socioeconomic status. It's not just that the teachers in Waverly are any worse than the teachers in Okemos or East Lansing, it's that the students themselves are facing difficult challenges, so it's harder for the teachers to get test scores up to the same level as they do in wealthy districts.
I feel this scene where Kevin is talking after yet another Waverly girls soccer loss explains in a real way the difference between an area like Waverly and a more middle-class area like DeWitt or Okemos, Michigan, and how it can affect you.
We're not inner city, but we're getting there, and having, schools like Hazlitt, predominantly white, upper middle class, those kids go to all the camps, they have the funds to do that. Our girls don't.
Yeah.
They can be coached by, and go to those, fancy camps and do the club soccer, which is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
And I have girls who can't make it to practice, they have to work.
There's some disparity there.
Yeah. And I'm sure the DeWitt girls, the Hazard girls, I'm sure they're at practice every day. Guarantee it. They don't have to worry about, money to go out because their parents will give them money, or they, pay their car insurance, pay for their gas. Yeah. So that's just, unfortunate, but it is what it is, I guess, with the district that we're in now here.
There's no appreciation from the district for the effort they give to these kids, and it destroys morale. In fact, the school board really has no idea what goes on in the Waverly classrooms.
I mean, how have you been hurt financially, I guess, or?
$6,000 this year alone. Preach.
Preach, you said? Yeah. And that's from the insurance?
That's from insurance. I mean, I guess actually I'm at 8,000 now that I think of it, because I should have also been just naturally given a raise. So the district is out nothing, but they get to save by not paying employees the implicit promises of.
And I mean, I guess what is their logic for not giving you the insurance?
For not giving insurance?
Yeah,
did you
they
say?
have that. What was their explanation? They've told you at least.
There is an explanation. The district has this idea of they only have so much money, which is true. They only have so much money, and that they just can't afford our asks. But the history has said that they continue to save money.
We're just letting the community know that we feel that so far the contract negotiations have not been fair, and we're working for fair treatment.
I mean, there's a lot of lip service that's given to teachers that, oh, they're so important, their job is so difficult, oh, they do such a good job, but we're not getting valued in a lot of different ways. Our voices aren't being heard. We're not getting just basic insurance coverages are not being paid for like they should be. Like a lot of our teachers are getting second and third jobs.
I don't think this school board and superintendent knows their classroom. I don't think they know the challenges. I don't think they know the students that are not motivated at all, and every day will say to me, no, I'm not doing that. So if the student is challenging every day and doesn't want to learn, this board and superintendent doesn't really understand that at all. And so if they want to base pay on student achievement and compare us with other districts that have both financial resources so that their students go on extracurricular trips with their own family and vacations that give them life experiences, as well as support decisions at home for a student to do their homework and do their projects and study for tests. There's a great percentage of our students who maybe up to 50% of our Waverly students that do not study for tests, do not do homework, do not have that home support, and therefore there is a lot of research that talks about that socioeconomic family unit support, and it's common sense in some ways, and in other ways there's research to support it. So
we need school boards, and we need superintendents, and we need central admin offices that are truly in touch, that are truly supportive, that are truly scaffolding, that are working to remove barriers for educators, not increasing those barriers. You know, if I was across the office or across the street, I would be doing everything I possibly could to ensure that, you know what, my teachers have the opportunity to work one job and to stay 2 hours after school like we used to be able to do, you know, because at one point, you know, our teachers were ascending that ladder and they were able to make a decent, rate of pay, and they were able to stay till 5:30 with their students and plan and be collegial and, you know, and engage in professional learning communities and things like that. The opportunity is not there anymore, and it is a fiscal, consideration. I've seen no concern. I've seen no concern, no care, no consideration. And I don't know if it's disbelief. I don't know if it's they just couldn't care less because they're just not that involved and invested. I know for a fact there are board members that show up that Monday twice a month, and they do no prep for that meeting, and they do no engagement. They do no, and so really there's not a lot of skin in the game for some of these folks. So, but when I'm looking at them and I'm assessing their comments and even their body language, I don't see any care or concern.
The vulnerable may be the staff or the current student, or those yet to enroll in Waverly. The vulnerable could even be the retiree who owns a home in this district. The vulnerable are Waverly community as a whole entity. On behalf of the vulnerable in this district, I would like to report that from what I see and hear, you would find that about half the teachers are actively looking for positions outside this district. And on behalf of that vulnerable district, I would like the board to consider what that truly means. Yes, it means money saved as replacements come at lower prices. On behalf of the equally vulnerable students, both current and future, I point out that the loss of this institutional memory cannot be replaced. The collective experiences and the knowledge of not just veteran teachers, but veteran Waverly teachers. The instructional continuity will be lost. the remaining veteran teachers will be overwhelmed trying to support beginning teachers. What happens when the percentage of new hires outnumber the veterans? What happens when a building has an entire grade level or a department of new hires? What happens when the damage from the lack of a contract or the implementation of an unfavorable contract is irreversible?
Unforgettable, that's what you are. Unforgettable, though near or far.